Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha, Gurureva Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Chinmayam Vyapyat Sarvam Trilokyam Sacharacharam Atpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Tvameva Mata Chapita Tvameva Tvameva Bandhuscha Sakha Tvameva Tvameva Vidya Dravidam Tvameva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva. Jai. Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu Madharupena Sanstita Namastasyai 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 Namo Namaha. Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu Shakti Rupena Sanstita Namastasyai 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 Namo Namaha. Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu Buddhi Rupena Sanstita Namastasyai 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 Namo Namaha. Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu Lakshmi Rupena Sanstita Namastasyai 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 Namo Namaha. So we are in the 22nd chapter, which is the final recapitulation of the teaching. And someone remember what verse we're on, what page we're on?
On page 429, number 23.
Okay, let me click this real quickly. Can you help us out, please, Ganesh?
केवलाज्ञानजनितं ज्ञानेन विनिवर्तते दोषेण जनितं कस्मात् विलीये ज्ञानमात्रतः. What is produced by ignorance alone comes to an end by knowledge. How can that produced by a defect vanish on account of mere knowledge?
So this is one of the most important ideas that we have. I was talking with a friend about the Brahma Sutras, and the introductory section and most of the commentary on the first sutra has to do with this idea of adhyasa. Adhyasa means superimposition. Vedanta thunders that my problem is not an ontological problem. It's not a problem of being. It's not that I'm a sniveling little ego and I need to become bigger, or I get glued onto Brahman, or I merge into Brahman. It says that what my problem is, first, avidya, ignorance. I have the non-apprehension of my essential nature, then there is a subsequent misapprehension, adhyasa, superimposition. Shankara's classic image, snake in the rope. So someone gets out of the bathtub and steps on a wet length of rope and freaks out. I've stepped on a snake. Oh dear, terrible, I'm going to die. So he looks down and sees, oh, it's not a snake. It's a rope. So did the snake turn into a rope? You hear people say, oh, I'm advancing spiritually. I've been meditating for 20 years. That's like saying the head of my snake has turned into a rope. Oh, I'm doing intense tapas. I'm fasting. I'm staying up all night and I'm not sleeping. That's like taking out a bat and beating the snake, hoping that will make it turn into a rope. Actions do not remove ignorance, because actions are not contrary to ignorance. What removes ignorance is vidya, knowledge, jnana, knowledge, which comes about through proper investigation, vicharena, by means of investigation. How did the guy get rid of the snake? He looked down and investigated and saw, oh, it's not a snake, it's a rope. How do I remove fundamental ignorance? Where is it, first of all? Is the self ignorant? Who can answer that question?
Nope.
Yes, no?
Capital S is not ignorant.
Say again, Uday.
The self with a capital S is not ignorant.
Self is not ignorant at all. No. Ignorance occurs to the mind. Both bondage and liberation occur to the mind. The self is ever free. What is my bondage? My bondage is because of ignorance. I do not apprehend that I am consciousness. And then adhyasa, I project onto myself the qualities of the body, the mind, the pranas, etc. Tall, I'm short, I'm old, I'm young, I'm fat, I'm skinny, or I'm good, I'm bad, I'm virtuous or vicious, I'm smart or stupid, I'm successful or not successful. People like me or they don't like me. All of that is because of adhyasa, the superimposition upon the self. How is it removed? Vicharena, by means of investigation. Let me give you an example. I'm thinking of an arithmetic problem. You do not know what the arithmetic problem is. You have ignorance. Ask me what the ignorance problem is, or the arithmetic problem. Jim, what's the arithmetic problem? Do I have to ask my own questions? 5 plus 5 equals 10. Inquiry, you asked the question, you inquired. I gave you the answer. Where's your ignorance gone? Gone. It has an end. Now, we say ignorance is beginningless. For how long did you not know the arithmetic problem? It's the beginning of time. Ignorance has no beginning, but it has an end. Likewise, for how long have I thought I was a person? But it can come to an end. Now, investigation into our self-nature is difficult if the mind is stirred by attachment and identification. That's why we practice Vairagya. That quietens the mind down. So our investigation is easy and it's fruitful. All right, next verse.
Ata eva taimirika pashyed jananapi dvayam chagadabhasa eshastu karmadosha samudbhavah. For this very reason, a person having a particular disease of the eye may see a pair in place of one, though knowing it as one. This appearance of the world has the defect of karman, or past actions producing their results as its origin.
So if a person has defective sight, let's say they're cross-eyed, they see double. Hang on, I've got this thing here that's beeping. So a person who, like I have macular degeneration, if I look directly at you, you don't have a head. It disappears. The defect of the eye makes it appear weird. So also, the defect, the dosha of ignorance causes me to think I'm a person, or I'm the subtle body that is born, dies, then goes into a new incarnation, etc. Swamiji used to say, reincarnation is the genealogy of the ghost and the post. So if you're walking down the street at night and there's shadows and you see a mugger, what am I going to do? I'm going to be attacked. And then you start thinking, oh, I wonder if he grew up in a dysfunctional family. Maybe his grandparents were violent people. Maybe they belonged to a gang. And I make up a story in my mind about the history of this mugger. Then a car comes by and I see, oh, there's no mugger there at all. It's just a lamppost. The doctrine of reincarnation occurs in our scriptures. It is useful for those who are firmly identified with the ego, who are not yet ready for for the highest knowledge. But the highest knowledge, Vedanta thunders, the self is ajati. It is unborn. Let me see if I can give you a more worldly example. Do you incarnate into a dream? Sure feels like it. Feels like I'm in that dream body, dealing with the craziness of that dream world. But when I wake up, poof, the dream is gone. I see it was all just created by my mind. But was I in the dream, or was the dream in me? I tell you, this experience of having a physical body, of being a person, an individual, in the waking state is like a dream. The self is birthless, changeless, deathless, outside of time and space. You were never born in the first place. Why do we teach reincarnation then? The closest parallel I can come is, for most people, Newtonian physics works just fine. However, if you're an astrophysicist and you're dealing with very large masses, galaxies, black holes, supermassive things, or the very small quantum physics, Newtonian physics breaks down. It is a partial description. Perfectly valid for our vyavahara, our daily transactions. So also for the vast majority of people on the path, the doctrine of reincarnation, of karma, can be very useful. But for the mumukshu, seeker after liberation, all of that is illusion. Any thoughts on this? If in your dream you were arrested and thrown in jail, the cause of being in jail was that you were speeding in your sports car in the dream. From the viewpoint of the waker, is that cause and effect real? Or if you have a flying dream, there's implied cause and effect. Somehow, for some reason, you have a cause and you are able to fly, effect. But when you wake up, is cause and effect in the dream real? Next one,
Jim, I have a question.
please go ahead, Uday.
What you mentioned that the theory of reincarnation is a useful transactional kind of a theory. So a very practical question, you know, in day-to-day life, in the people with whom we interact, in the things that we listen to, that idea is re-emphasized at the transactional level so much that it, without realizing, it begins to take a grip over you, and then you have to undertake a lot of effort mentally to undo it and say, no, this is at a certain level and there is a higher truth. Could you
Yes.
perhaps suggest some more practical tips that might help in, not letting it overwhelm you?
Yes, yes. In Yoga Vasishta, we have 3 questions that we deal with over and over and over again. Who am I? What is this world? And how has it come about? The first question, who am I? The answer to this question we get through inquiry into the nature of the self, subject-object discrimination. But the issue happens, what about this world? And if you study texts like Mandukya Upanishad with the Gaudapada-karika, you should always study it with that. Or texts like Tripura Rahasya or Yoga Vasishta, over and over and over again. The invitation is meditate on the scriptural message that this world is like a dream. Don't take it seriously. Don't worry. It's all going to be okay. So I watch the news every day. I have friends who say, oh, Jim, how can you watch the news? Doesn't it upset you? Well, does it upset you to watch a Batman movie or what's the new Tom Cruise one?
Maverick.
I can't remember what it is. Where he flies the airplanes. Top Gun. Top Gun. Does it upset you to watch those? Well, Jim, those aren't real. They're movies. And your point is, it's like a movie. Don't take it seriously. So we meditate on. This is called the jnana vritti, the thought of knowledge. How has this world come about? By means of sankalpa. We deal with this macrocosmically and microcosmically. Macrocosmically, why does light travel at 186,000 miles per second? That's the sankalpa of the infinite. Why is there gravity? That's the sankalpa of the infinite. But on a microcosmic level, my worry, my fear, my need to control, my anger and resentment, my regret for the past, become sankalpas. And they make my world show up as fearful and worrisome and out of control, frightening. Teju Mayananda always says, if you want to get rid of your worries, quit worrying. My sankalpa out pictures as how I experience the world. When they're just a world, I mean, those are facts. You know, aren't we both seeing the same world? No. We are not. There may be common points because we have similar viewpoints. But actually, to a large degree, we make our own little zoo. But in my ignorance, I think there's an objective world and it's separate from me and it's real. Brahma Satyam Jagan Nityet Yeti Rupo Vinishchayaha Soyam Nitya Nitya Vastu Viveka Samudharita. Brahma Satyam Jagan Nitya. Brahman alone is real. Jagan, the phenomenal world, is Nitya. It's an illusion. This is known as Nitya, Anitya, Vivekaha. Discrimination between the real and the unreal, the eternal and the non-eternal. This is a practice. No shortcut. Is that helpful, Uday?
Yes, Jim, very much. Thank you.
All right, next verse.
Tasmad akarma vilayam vyavaharo na liyate samapte karmani tatah shishyedadvat shishyed advaya chinmayam. Therefore, till the destruction of karman, action is not destroyed. When the karman has ended or has spent itself by producing results, then the non-dual, pure consciousness would be left remaining.
So what we do, we end the vasanas through mature vairagya. How does Shankara define vairagya? That desire, we don't achieve it overnight. To give up all attachments to enjoyments gained through sensory experience. And here, enjoyment can also mean misery. I'm not attached to any of it. And giving up all identification with any idea of self, starting from the body up to and including the form of Brahma, the creator, meaning I'm powerful. Giving all those up. And when the last vasana is given up, ignorance covering the mind ends. Truth of our self nature is as clear as a fruit falling into your hand. Oh, I'm not a person. I never was a person. How could I have not seen it? Now, The scriptures say the dharma of the body is karma. Okay, the body has karma. Answer me this. Does your dream body have karma? If you're in a car accident in your dream and it's your fault, the police arrive, they start to carry you off to prison. You wake up. Is the karma of the dream body real? If you walk down the street and your shadow falls into the gutter, oh, my shadow is soiled. There's water and sludge all over my shadow. No. The ego and its phantom creation, the body, is like a shadow. Scriptures use literally that term, ch22, the shadow self, the shadow of consciousness. It's a phony self, it's a counterfeit self. I have no karma. I cause nothing. Nothing causes me. Satchidananda Rupaham. I am the form of pure existence, pure awareness, of bliss absolute. Now, it all depends on from what level we're talking. If you are embodied, which only means if because of ignorance you identify with this shadow self, then cause and effect appears very real. And in Vyavahara, you put the key in the car and it starts. Put the grounds in the coffee maker and push the button, out comes coffee. That has a relative reality in the world of Vyavahara transactions. From the standpoint of the infinite, it's a dream life. Now, if you continue to thin the mind, again in Yoga Vasishtha, we get this wonderful term, Tanu Manasa, thinness of mind. As you thin the mind, your eyes wide open, you will find the world will thin. It's hard to explain. It's almost like you could put your hand right through it. It's like it's a transparency just hung in space. It gets very flat, very diaphanous. So this idea of the unreality of the world is not just theoretical. It's rooted in direct experience. Stop the mind altogether and the world is gone. Next one.
Tasman nastyeva vijnanam kadapi bhranti sambhavah iti shrutva punarvipraha papracha nrupanandanam. Therefore, there is surely no occurrence of delusion at any time for wise men possessed of self-knowledge. Thus, having heard, the Brahmana again asked the prince.
So again, we're back in the story of the Brahmin ghost who's now been de-ghostified, but he still has a few doubts. So the conclusion of this whole section here, the movement of thought is not an impediment to knowledge. In the end, even desire is not an impediment to knowledge. Ignorance is the issue. Ignorance of who I am. Ignorance of what this world is. And in this text, we talked about this last week, Sahaja Samadhi, natural or continuous samadhi, which is not some wackadoodle mind state. It is the direct experience and knowledge. Consciousness alone is. Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma. All this is verily Brahman. It's gone. It's consciousness. So the man of wisdom can walk in the world, work in the world, play in the world. And it's like a lucid dream. Next verse.
Aho nripatmaja katham jnaninam karma sambhavet jnanagni samsparshanepi karmatula katham sthitah. Prince, how is action possible for sages possessed of knowledge? How is action that is caught in remaining even on contact with the fire of knowledge?
So if all action under all circumstances has as its cause desire, and the man of wisdom is without desires, how is it that he can be seen to be acting? Some schools of thought teach what we call videho moksha, liberation beyond the body. So as long as you're in the body, there's still some ignorance there. really good. When you die, then you're liberated. Vedanta teaches Jivan Mukta, being liberated while alive. One can achieve total freedom in this very body. So how do you explain the activity of the wise person? It's kind of stuck on this point because we kind of answered that before. Let's see what the prince says now. Going on.
Athaha hemangadopi vipram tam nrupanandanah brahman shrunu pravakshyami trividham karmanyaninam sarvesham cha samanam syad apakvam pakvameva cha atoditam cheti tatra nashyed jnanad amadhyamam. Then the prince Hemangada also told that Brahmana, listen, I shall tell you the three kinds of karman would be the same for all sages possessed of knowledge: the unmatured, the matured, and the born slain. There, karman, except the middle one, the matured, would be destroyed by knowledge. Note, the three kinds of karman listed here are the same as the sanchita, the prarabdha, and the agamin described in Vedantic literature. Agamin is described as born slain, since for a knower of the self, all future actions cannot bear fruit due to absence of doership.
So let's talk about this. Shankara has a wonderful chapter in Vivekachudamani, and it's titled, Is There Prarabdha for the Saint? Go into these three kinds of karma: sanchita, agami, prarabdha. Sanchita is the karmas of the past which have yet to fructify. Agami karma is karmas of the future that we essentially set up in this life. Let me see if I can give an example. So if I watch Baryshnikov and I go, oh man, it would be so wonderful to be able to dance like he can. Well, you know, I'm 40 pounds overweight and I'm already 74. It's a bit late. But if it's my heart's desire, that will impel me into another incarnation. That's agami karma. Now, if 2 or 3 lifetimes ago, I wanted to be a lead soprano at the Metropolitan Opera, well, wrong body, Jim. So that's a karma that's in abeyance, that will need a future field of action to fructify. At the moment of realization, both the sanchita karma, those karmas of the past which have yet to fructify, and the agami karma are roasted. What do we mean by that? Ignorance labors under this driving idea: I'll be happy when, it'll be better if, well, this didn't work, it would have been better if I'd done blah, 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 blah. But the change of circumstances is going to make me happy. Self-realization reveals to us happiness is my essential nature. Nothing need change. Let go of all the cravings and abide in the self. So all that's left is the karma of the now, of this body in this lifetime. Then Shankara goes on to say, but the mark of the man of wisdom is he's not identified with his body. The body may have prarabdha, but not the self. He knows aham brahmasmi, I am always Brahman. If I look out in the morning and I see the trash truck go by, I'm not a trash truck. Doesn't matter what it does. So the mark of the man of wisdom is he is not identified with the body. He has no prarabdha. And in fact, can we say that there's any real cause and effect for something that's imagination in the first place? Again, back to the dream state. If I crash my car in the dream and because of that, that's cause, effect, I get arrested in the dream. And I wake up. The cause and effect and the action that seemed to be produced by it isn't real. So why do we teach prarabdha karma? It's a way for the ignorant to understand the activity of the man of wisdom. Oh, Swami Tapovanam, he stayed up in the Himalayas. He wouldn't come any lower than Rishikesh. Very austere. Would only work with 1, 2, 3 students at a time. Chinmaya, oh, Jagat Guru, all over the world, wrote 40 books, taught thousands and thousands of people, established centers all around the world. But their knowledge was identical. And their view of the equipment was identical. Practically speaking, what does that mean? Just push the automatic pilot button on the robot called the body, mind, intellect. Let it bounce through life, knocking against the various experiences. You have no relationship to it. It is Chit Jaya. It's a shadow. It's a reflection. Pratibimba, like the reflection in a mirror. Next verse.
Karmanam pachaka kalo niyatya niyatasthitah kalena pachi apachita prayam pakvam karma samiritam. Time is what brings to maturity karmans and is controlled by destiny or the fixed law of nature in the form of the will of God. Karman, mostly brought to maturity by time, is called the matured karman.
So he's describing what these karmas are, which I did a bit in the last discussion. Going on.
Apachitam apakvam syad ज्ञानोत्पत्तिरन ज्ञानोत्पत्तेरनन्तरं कृतं हतोदितं विद्धि ज्ञानादत्थ samudbhavat. That which has not been brought to maturity would be the unmatured karman. Know what is done after the dawn of knowledge as born slain by reason of being born extinguished by knowledge.
Yes. So here he's saying the same thing. The sanchita and the agami karmas are roasted in the fire of knowledge. The idea, I'll be happy when, it'll be better if, is gone. Going on.
Tatra pakvam tu yat karma tadarabdhamiti avegam mukta sharavat tishtatyeva phalapradam. There, the karman which is matured is called arabdha or prarabdha. Like a discharged arrow, it surely remains yielding the result till its speed or energy lasts.
So you're born because of your prarabdha. Gee, I want to do this and I want to do that and blah, 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 blah. But I also have some mumukshutva. And then somewhere in this life, our mumukshutva matures. And yeah, we may be a doctor or a lawyer, or a teacher, or an engineer, musician. But then you enter into the path. The body continues to do whatever its destiny is. And the knowledge dawns on the mind. What the body does is irrelevant. Some of us may have teaching karma. Why? Sat at the feet of too damn many gurus for too many lifetimes, thinking, oh, I want to be like that. You're stuck with it then. Others just continue a quiet life. Remember our first story, Hemaleka and Hemachuda. She's just hanging out as the daughter of the Agrabada. The prince gets realized. He doesn't stop doing his prince thing. Next verse.
Tanmulako jagadbhaso ज्ञानस्य तारतम्यतः स्थितोऽपि भ्रान्तितुल्योऽपि न भ्रान्ति फलभेदतः. The appearance of the world having that prarabdha karman as its root, though existing in conformity with comparative difference in knowledge, and though similar to delusion, is not a delusion on account of the difference in the fruits experienced. Note, the appearance of the world is experienced to a greater or lesser extent by the three kinds of sages possessed of knowledge, the highest, the middling, and the lowest. Though it is a delusion, from the point of view of purposeful action, yielding different results, undertaken by such knowers of the self, it can be considered as not a delusion. This view is evidently that of the observers and not of the sages possessed of self-knowledge.
Yes. So we had this discussion of the three kinds of people of wisdom. So you may see a person and they may look like they're getting angry or they have desires. You have no idea what their interior experience is. On the other hand, you may get the darshan of a great saint like Anandamayi Ma. She did not teach. She did not have disciples. She only had devotees. Or those who have steady wisdom, but their minds are still present and diverse and are seen to be active in the world, doing great and marvelous things. But from the standpoint of the jnani, no difference. No difference. Remember, there was a disciple who went to Ramana Maharshi and said, of the 7 stages of knowledge, which one belongs or is the characteristic of the realized soul? And Ramana Maharshi says it is at the 4th stage. You have a copy of Yoga Vasishta. Look up in the contents, the 7 stages of ignorance, 7 stages of knowledge. Then the disciple says, if that be so, then why are there 3 others superior to it, articulated in the scripture? And Bhagavan says, these are not states of bondage or freedom. This occurs at the 4th. They have to do with the experiences of the realized soul. They are not to be achieved by will or effort, because if you're efforting, you're not even a jnani at the 4th stage yet. They're karmic. How you perceive the world, how deeply you revel in the self. Does self-realization change your personality? Yes. And no. Swamiji always used to say the way to heal the mind is to get out of the mind. When you have cast off the mind, have no concern for it anymore, it settles down and becomes a useful tool. So at least you're probably not as much of a jerk in the world as you used to be. It does change us. But will we change from a doctor to a lawyer? Maybe. No. Will you give up your role as an engineer and become a guru? You might. Or will you be a closet jnani? Nobody knows but you. Maybe. But to the man of wisdom, none of it matters. Any thoughts on this?
I have a question, Jim.
Yes.
So I don't dream very much, but when I do, there doesn't seem to be any causality within the dream itself. It just seems very random and like spontaneous arising. And so is that part of what it's talking about with the different experiences of the Gyani? Is that like, does causality, is that not perceived anymore by them?
What the Jnani knows is that cause and effect is another illusion created by the mind. It only appears like there's cause and effect. It's kind of like agreement. I wouldn't worry about it too much, Jory. Just keep practicing. Just keep letting go of the world. It'll all become very clear. Again, when we talk about cause and effect, it all depends on from what level. Now, there are stories of Neem Karoli Baba. There's one that I remember that Ram Das used to tell, where he went and got on a train and the conductor came by and asked him for a ticket and he didn't have a ticket. He said, all right, we're going to throw you off the train. And then he always had these ratty blankets that he used to wrap himself around in. Thought he was a bum. He opens up, picks up the blanket, and just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of train tickets come out. So you want tickets? Now, something like that completely defies our ordinary understanding of cause and effect. Now, there are metaphysical laws. One of them is all of this is like a dream. Remember the three questions we talk about? Who am I? What is this world? How has it come about? The third question, sankalpa, it's all imagination. So our ordinary notions of cause and effect can at times completely break down. I don't know if that's useful.
Yes, thank you.
All right, next one.
Janayet tatkala phalam mandajnanavatam sphutam madhyanam asfutam taccha jnaninam phalabhasanam uttamanam tu tatkala phalam cha spashtabhasanam shashashringasamam brahman nahitat phalamuchyate. The appearance of the world would produce the fruit during its time of appearance, clearly for those possessed of slight knowledge, that is, those who are lowest in the scale of jnanins or knowers of the self. For the middling sages possessed of knowledge, also, that manifestation of the fruit at the time of the appearance of the world exists, but not clearly. But for the highest sages possessed of knowledge, the fruit produced during the time of appearance of the world, though clearly appearing to others, is similar to a hare's horn that is non-existent in their own perception. Therefore, it is not called the fruit produced by the apparent worldly existence.
So how solid the world appears to be, how real cause and effect appears to be for the man of wisdom merely is dependent on whether they're the lowest, the middle, or the highest. So when the man of wisdom sees the world, essentially, he knows that it's just vibration held together by thought. It's sankalpa. The names and forms are just plastic. They come and go. So, practically speaking, for us on the path, hang out with the meditation. Okay, don't take it too seriously, Jim. It's really all dreamlike. It's all going to be okay. Right where the trouble seems to be, there God is. There is Brahma. It's going to be okay. No need to worry. Let go. Let go. Who's you with? Perhaps the text that exemplifies this with the greatest clarity is the wonderful text, I am that, which is a recording and translation of conversations with Nisargadatta Maharaj, great mid-20th century saint. And you'll hear him say, it's all consciousness, it's all consciousness. And the word that he's using there is Chaitanya. What's the difference between Chit and Chaitanya? Chaitanya was like the consciousness of stuff. It's mind formed. He will usually use the word awareness for Chit, absolute being. Next verse. Oh, no, we're out of time. What's our verse for next week?
We will start verse 36.
36. Okay, any other questions real quickly? We have about a minute. All right. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Sri Guru Namaha. Hari Om. Oh, thank you all.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Jim.
Jim.